And joining us now is one of the Democratic candidates for Florida's 20th congressional district, Elijah Manley. Elijah, it's nice to speak to you. We appreciate your being with us. We're talking about this newly redrawn 20th district. Everyone agrees there that experience matters, but the disagreement is over what that experience should look like, years of service in Congress, or really lived experience, racial representation in a district that has been represented by a black member of Congress since the 90s. Why, in your view, is lived experience more important here?
Well, first, good morning, Peter, and happy Election Day. You know, lived experience is so important because of the history of this country. We're talking about hundreds of years of slavery, Jim Crow here in the South. And it took an amendment to the VRA in 1992 to get this seat created so that African Americans from Florida could elect a member to Congress for the first time in 116 years. In a 116-year gap when there were no black members of Congress from the state of Florida. We sent the first one since Reconstruction in 1992 from Alcee Hastings, who passed away in 2021. And for 34 years, we have held this seat, providing our community with representation that is so needed. And in this current time that we're in, you know, where we have a Supreme Court that eviscerated our protections and our right to vote, we cannot expect to have a Democrat, someone among our own ranks, taking away our representation. This seat wasn't taken away from our community.
Mr. Manley, we should note you were talking about Alcee Hastings, of course, a celebrated Democrat in the state of Florida who has passed away. His own daughter is endorsing Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I want to ask you about her for a moment, though. She is obviously the ranking member of the Powerful Appropriations Committee. If Democrats take back the House, controlling the money is one of the real key ways the Democrats can check this president. Why isn't that a value add for your community?
I think, you know, the lived experience matters so much. Yes, Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz has a lot of experience, but, you know, we have to weigh her experience with the needs of this community. We need someone that understands the vast majority of this community and their lived experiences. You know, people that live in Pompano Beach or that live in the hood in Lauderhill, they have specialized issues. They have issues relating to healthcare, to criminal justice. You know, those are things that the Congresswoman can be an ally on, but those are not things that she will understand off the cuff. When we're fighting, you know, these attacks on DEI, on black employment, on the criminal justice front, and we need people who understand these issues. And, you know, everybody has to start somewhere. You know, the experience is important. We understand the seniority argument.
Mr. Manley, let me ask you, if I can, just to follow up. You have, in other conversations throughout the campaign, detailed some of the policy differences with Wasserman Schultz. You've accused Israel of committing a genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. You support restrictions on aid to that country. She has not co-sponsored Medicare for All legislation. But notably, Hakeem Jeffries just this week said that he doesn't support Medicare for All. So if Democrats win, do you believe that Jeffries should not be the next House Speaker?
You know, when I get to Congress in January, I will vote for Hakeem Jeffries to be the speaker. But make no mistake, Hakeem Jeffries needs to listen to the base of the party. The vast majority, the polls are showing that the vast majority of our party, they want Medicare for all. They want us to restrict aid to Israel. That's what the people want. And so I'm listening to the people, and that's why we're seeing these victories across the country, because people are tired of status quo politics, and Hakeem Jeffries needs to listen to the party.
Just to be very clear then, so if you would support Hakeem Jeffries, then why wouldn't you support Debbie Wasserman Schultz in sharing that view as he does?
Well, I think, you know, building a relationship is important. You know, he's, you know, a member of the CBC. You know, he is the Democratic leader.
Black Caucus.
However, I do think that Debbie Wasserman Schultz should have ran in the district that she lives in, the 22nd, to give our party the strongest possible candidate we needed in that district to add to our margins in the majority this November. Unfortunately, we're likely to lose that seat because, you know, although we have a great Democratic candidate there in Pia Dandia, she lacks the name recognition that Debbie Wasserman Schultz could have used in that district. And so we may lose that district. The 20th district needs to send somebody, you know, progressive. This is what we need. We need someone who's progressive, who understands, you know, the moment that we're in. And Democratic voters, they're sick and tired of the establishment. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, you know, she's been an ally in many ways. I think she's a good person, but she's been there for 22 years and she hasn't really accomplished too much. Yes, appropriations is an important role to be on, but, you know, so is having lived experience from this community.
Understood. Mr. Manley, let me ask you, there are 4 black candidates, as we just showed on the screen right now in this race. You have said that the vote will likely be split, but each of them have a right to run. Why do you think that all of these candidates have not consolidated behind your candidacy?
Right. I think, first, the Black community isn't a monolith, so it was very hard to consolidate behind one candidate. I am a progressive. I'm the only progressive candidate in the race. And I think that's important to have on the ballot this year. That is why I remained in the race. I'm also the candidate that can attract the broadest coalition of voters, white voters, Hispanic voters, and Black voters, as well as our vibrant LGBTQ community in this district. I can compete with Debbie Wasserman Schultz with Jewish voters. So that's why I thought I was the best candidate, and I remain the best candidate in this race. However, you have so many people with different lived experiences, with different ideas. So it's very hard to consolidate. And the decision that voters are going to have to make today is balancing, the name recognition of everybody, balancing race, balancing experience, but choosing who do they want to represent them for the future. I'm not looking for just 2 years. I'm looking to represent this district for a long time and give them the stability that they need, because we've been through so much with the former representative.
And Mr. Manley, to be clear, if Debbie Wasserman Schultz wins this primary, will you endorse her and will you campaign with her?
I think that we're going to win this election tonight, but if in the event that she does, I think that she will face a strong challenge in 2028 in the consolidated field, which will be to her disadvantage. I'm going to vote for the Democrat that is on the ballot in November. I'm a Democrat through and through, and I encourage everyone to support our nominee in November.
Elijah Manley, we very much appreciate you making time to speak to us. We wish you continued safe travels on the trail. We'll be watching what happens tonight. Thank you so much. We should note we have also reached out to the Congresswoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, about a potential interview, and we hope to have that at some point soon as well.